Welcome back. I'm Ashmit Kumar. Now, the Supreme Court has questioned the lightning speed at which Arun Goel was appointed as the new election commissioner. Now, Constitution Bench, that's 5 judges of a bench of the Apex Court, asked the government today if it was in a tearing hurry to clear the file within just 24 hours, since the post had been lying vacant for over 6 months now. The court, which has been hearing pleas seeking a collegium to appoint election commission members, also expressed its concerns on the current appointment process. To discuss this process and what perhaps the solution could be, a whole host of issues are being discussed before the Apex Court. I'm now joined by TS Krishnamurthy, former Chief Election Commissioner. Mr. Krishnamurthy, thank you so much for joining us. First up, before we get into the technicalities as to what the appointment process should ideally look like, the question I want to ask is, in recent memory, we've seen a lot of criticism come the Election Commission's way, criticisms regarding U-turns on freebies, regarding certain dates for elections, regarding certain violations of the MCC which were ignored. These were criticisms that came the EC's way, and there were questions raised about whether or not the EC is in fact acting in a biased way. Is that a concern which has in fact prompted this entire debate, public debate that we are seeing on how the election commissioners should be appointed?
Well, I believe the petition is on the appointment procedure of the election commissioners. But in the course of the hearing, the Supreme Court has made some observations relating to the independence of the election commissioners and linking it to the tenure of the election commissioners. These are all, I suppose, observations to provoke questions to understand the real issue involved. But as far as I am concerned, I feel that independence is not relatable to tenure. Independence relates to the person's style of functioning.
Right, Mr. Krishnamurthy, but the question that I was trying to ask you is, these observations that you're referring to, that the Apex Court has expressed concerns regarding the independence of the Election Commission, has that in part been prompted by the conduct of the Election Commission itself, given as how in the recent past we've seen a U-turn on the freebies issue, we've seen certain violations of the MCC being ignored by the election commissioners, we've seen certain elections in certain dates being given and certain preferences being given. Is that something that may have prompted these observations by the Apex Court?
Yeah, it seems to be so. It seems to be so. But then I suppose they have also gone a kind of a tangential comment about the independence of the commissioners. See, the independence, and there is also a view expressed that it is relatable to a tenure. For example, Mr. Sessions served for 6 years, and similarly, the longer period will enable the election commissioner to be free. Well, I suppose there is a slight difference, because when Mr. Sessions was in power, initially he was a single member sole chief election commissioner. After some time, a multi-member body was set up by the government. The matter was challenged in the court, and the Supreme Court upheld the multi-member election body, where chief election commissioner and 2 election members were given equal rights. So when you have 3 members in an election commission and they are appointed for a period of 6 years, there is bound to be difference of opinion and so on. But as an independent chief election commissioner, you have a different style of functioning. But if a collective body functioning as an election commission, you have a different style of functioning. Be that as it may, there is always some merit in staying a longer period, because he can to improve the quality of conduct of elections. So I do not subscribe to the view that if you are having a tenure of 1 year or 1.5 years, you don't have that independence. It depends upon the individual. There may be aberrations. Some people may not have functioned independently. But that doesn't mean the system is bad.
Sure, Mr. Krishnamurthy. Sure.
Call for the improvement.
Sure. So that, of course, was one concern that was raised by the Apex Court. Let's look into some of the other arguments that had been raised. Mr. Krishnamurthy, if you can hear me, one of the concerns that has been raised by the petitioners is that while Article 324 very clearly provides that the Parliament should have legislated on a law for the appointment process, it's not yet happened. We've celebrated 75 years of independence. We're calling it Azadi Ka Mahotsav, but we still don't have a law which governs the appointment to the Election Commission.
I'm afraid there is a law. There is a law available When the multi-member election commission was set up, there was a law. But the point is there is no law on the appointment procedure. But there is a law saying that there will be three-member election commission. If you need a procedure that can be outlined either by the government or by the Supreme Court, certainly a procedure similar to what is available for Chief Vigilance Commissioner, namely the Prime Minister of India, the nominee of a Chief Justice, and a leader of the opposition could be a collective body to suggest a name.
Sure. So that's something that needs clarity, and that is essentially what the petitioners are asking for. But as far as what the solution to this entire issue could be, there is a call that has been made first by the Goswami Committee and then later by the Law Commission that perhaps the solution to this is a collegium which consists of the Prime Minister, the LOP, and the Chief Justice of India. Is that the answer?
I entirely agree that will improve the credibility of the institution. In fact, as the Chief Election Commissioner had recommended in writing to the government to bring about this change, and there had other suggestions by Law Commission and so on. So it is for the government. As early as 2004, we had suggested this change in the procedure. Similarly, there is a lacuna in the matter of removal of the election commissioner. For example, the Chief Election Commissioner can be removed by impeachment. The other two election commissioners need not be removed by impeachment. They can be removed on the recommendation of the Chief Election Commissioner. So there is some kind of a law, a lacuna, which needs to be rectified. So there is certainly a case for having a look at the whole thing. But to say that the election commissioner can be independent if he's for 6 years may be a difficult thing to accept it.
Sure. Let me also get your thoughts on another argument that was made. While the consensus appears to be building towards a collegium consisting of the Prime Minister, the LOP, Leader of Opposition, as well as the CJI, another question that was raised is that given as how Election Commission plays a fundamental role in deciding the fate of political parties, members of those political parties cannot play a role in the appointment process. You cannot have the Prime Minister, you cannot have the Leader of Opposition. That's the argument being made, that there should be a collegium minus political representatives for the Election Commission. Is that a workable solution?
I'm not sure whether it is a workable solution because, when you have too many members in the collegium process, you have different voices. It may be difficult to achieve consensus. Besides, some political parties may favor somebody while some other parties may not favor this person. The Leader of the Opposition is a respectable member in Parliament, and certainly one member to represent the opposition parties should be good enough. In my opinion, it will be easy to implement. There may not be practical difficulties in implementing a decision or in arriving at a decision.
Sure. Let me get you the penultimate question, your thoughts on that. As far as the centre's defense is concerned, what we've heard the Attorney General as well as the Solicitor General argue is that, look, the appointment to the Election Commission is a discharge of executive function, and that is where a Lakshman Rekha should be drawn between the judiciary doing its job and the executive doing its job, and that the court has absolutely no business impeding on the jurisdiction of the executive. That's what the centre is saying, that, look, this is my job, let me do my job. The courts don't have a role to play here. Your thoughts on that?
As of now, the law as it stands, yes, it is the executive privilege. But if you want to improve the credibility of the institution, if you want to avoid criticism by political parties, one way of ensuring is that appointments are made in a transparent manner and the integrity of the institution is maintained. So there is no harm in having a system. If you can have it for appointment of Chief Vigilance Commissioner, I see no reason why it cannot be considered for appointment of Chief Election Commissioner. There's no harm in it. I agree, as the law stands, yes, the government has got the privilege to appoint the person. But do you want a system that it is credible so that people have faith in the system? Then you accept a collegium system. That would be, in my opinion, a fair solution.
Sure. Just one final question, and we just have 30 seconds for this, Mr. Krishnamurthy. As far as going forward is concerned, one concern that Supreme Court has repeatedly said is that we don't need yes men, we don't need men who are docile. This was a question that was put across to the Attorney General today. What is the answer to that question?
No, see, you have to be more careful in selecting the people. Select the right there may be one or two aberrations. So the best thing is to bring the collegium system. Certainly, there can be more credibility in the selection of the persons. So I personally feel that while in every human institution there are bound to be some bad apples, you cannot say that the entire thing has to be changed. It's enough if you bring a collegium system of appointment. I am sure it will bring more credibility.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean to say that the earlier chief commissioners, except perhaps a few of them, have not discharged their independent jobs independently. So, well, there's always a room for improvement, and go ahead with the improvement.
Sure, Mr. Krishnamurthy. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us more insight from an insider's perspective. But the Apex Court for now has concluded the arguments, has reserved its judgment, and will hopefully give more clarity on the way forward. But that's all the time that we have for. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned to CNBC TV18. The news and updates continue on the other side.